I am the useless true heiress of the general's manor, skilled in neither music, chess, calligraphy, painting, nor needlework. All I know is to eat, sleep, and repeat. I spent 16 years as a lazy slacker in my adoptive parents' home, growing plump and well-nourished. My biological parents preferred the slender, adopted daughter, making me eat steamed buns with plain water every day, yet I still didn't lose weight. My childhood fiancé also looked down on me, married the adopted daughter, and mocked me as an ugly toad. The adopted daughter often brought her lackeys to humiliate me in every possible way, calling me an unwanted fatso. Unfortunately, I was too tongue-tied to fight back, so I could only endure their insults and cry in secret, until that day, he stood up for me against the fake heiress. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. When the banquet starts later, keep your mouth shut. Don't touch anything except the tea. Do you understand? Yes, Aunt, I nodded repeatedly, not daring to show the slightest hint of defiance. Though I was listening to my own birth mother's admonitions, I couldn't openly call her mother. Ever since I was brought back to the general's manor, it had been this way for 3 years without exception. Pull in your stomach, hold it in with all your might. I don't know how that family raised you, fat as a pig, not looking like me at all. If you still can't succeed today, you know the consequences. The consequences are nothing more than sending me back to my adoptive parents' home, which I'd be happy to see happen. My dad, mom, and brothers must miss me. However, I can't stand being scolded, so I still had to cooperate with my mother, trying hard to suck in my stomach and hold my breath until my round face turned red, but it still had no effect. My belly has a mind of its own. What can I do? I looked at my mother with grievance, only to run headlong into the disgust clearly written on her face. Today was the Grand Tutor's wife's 60th birthday, and my mother bringing me along to offer congratulations was just a side matter. The real purpose was to arrange a meeting between me and the second legitimate son of the Minister of War. I stared at the braised pork meatballs on the banquet table, swallowing my saliva, but I could only take small sips of tea, watching others eat with dry envy. Mother was whispering with a noble lady. The voice wasn't loud, but I happened to catch every single word. Is that the young lady from the cousin's family, Miss Lin? Yes, her name is Lin Yuer. I glanced almost imperceptibly at my mother, whose face showed no trace of strangeness at having referred to her own daughter as a distant cousin. Staring at the teacup before me, my heart had long grown as cold as the tea inside. Drinking it now won't even hurt the stomach. She is, indeed, quite plump. Madam Song, as you know, men don't fancy this type. In a moment, let our Xiaoga take a look. As long as Xiaoga likes it, then it's settled. The noble lady looked me up and down, and I pretended to glance at her casually, just in time to catch the disdain in her eyes. In Shengjing, delicate waists are all the rage among beauties, but I am not one of them. Since I was young, my father, mother, and older brothers have all treated me very well, raising me to be plump and well-rounded. But not to the point of looking like a pig. At most, my face is a bit round, my arms a bit chubby, and my belly a bit protruding. The first time they met me, my parents immediately gave the order. Every meal I was to have only steamed buns with plain water, and the buns couldn't be sweet, either. They want me to slim down, to be like Song Yarrow, with a slender willow waist, revealing the bone structure. Only then will I be suitable for marriage prospects. I simply can't bear skipping a single meal without meat. Although the general's manor treats me poorly in many ways, there is one good thing: they allow me to keep my 4 personal maids, Plum, Orchid, Bamboo, and Chrysanthemum, whom I brought with me. My courtyard is located in a remote corner of the general's mansion, and my parents don't pay much attention to me, so I had Qingzhu secretly bring me outside food every day, and it was never discovered. Over time, my parents saw that I didn't lose weight despite drinking plain water and eating steamed buns, so they lost all expectations. My childhood fiancé, who was arranged even before I was born, happened to see me once and disdainfully told everyone that I was a fat toad. I rejected this marriage outright. My parents completely gave up the idea of publicly acknowledging me, and soon had Song Yao take my place in the marriage arrangement, seeing that relying on looks wasn't working. My parents then hoped I could improve my image through talent and skills, But I had grown up doing whatever I pleased since childhood, whatever I didn't want to learn. My father and mother always indulged me and let me skip it. So, unlike other women who are skilled in music, chess, calligraphy, painting, and needlework, I don't know a single one of them. Somehow, before long, the entire capital knew I was a good-for-nothing. After that, I completely fell out of favor with my parents. Every time a match was arranged, it always ended in failure. My father was once a general, but now the emperor has taken back his military authority, leaving him with a nominal position of training troops. I had hoped to rely on marriage to gain some support, but in my current state, I cannot reach for a high branch, and they are unwilling to marry beneath them. As a result, I have been delayed until now, approaching my 20th year, and marriage has become increasingly difficult. The population of Da Yin is small, and the sage encourages more births. There is a law that states any woman who remains unmarried by the age of 20 shall be caned 20 times and fined 10 taels. For poor families, that could be fatal. For a household like the general's manor, the physical punishment and fines were not the main concern. What truly mattered was the loss of face. Thus, the elderly couple continuously lowered their standards and now have set their sights on the second legitimate son of the Minister of War. It is said that the man is nearly 30 years old, but due to a childhood drowning incident, he suffered a brain injury and speaks like a 3-year-old child. While my mother and the minister's wife were away from the table, I couldn't resist picking up my chopsticks. Once I took a bite, I couldn't stop myself from sampling every single dish. With such delicious food at the banquet, wouldn't it be a shame not to enjoy it properly? In the end, I ended up devouring the entire feast, leaving my face gleaming with oil. Everyone else put down their chopsticks and stared at me, their eyes widening a bit. I had no time to be distracted. My eyes were only on the food. "Are you all still eating?" I was quite polite, asking them first. They all shook their heads, so I continued helping myself to the dishes. My mouth was stuffed full, my cheeks puffed out. Just then, that dim-witted blind date started shouting outside the door, "She's a pig, Mother. I don't want to sleep with a pig." The matchmaking fell through again. My mother, furious and exasperated, ordered me to wait for her in a remote corner of the Grand Tutor's residence. I sat in the cool pavilion with my maid Hongmei, idly watching the flowers. "Sister, why have you hidden yourself here? You've made me search for you." Song Yao, swaying her slender waist like a water snake, arrived with her lackeys in tow. Seeing them, Hongmei nervously supported me. "Miss," I shook my head at her as usual. Song Yao was always good at mocking me. Every time she found out that my matchmaking had failed, she would use the guise of concern to actually engage in sarcastic remarks. She married into the Marquis of Anding's household and became the wife of the heir. Her lackeys, whose family status was inferior to the general's mansion before marriage and still couldn't compare to the Marquis's household after marriage, continued to follow her lead without question. "Young madam probably don't know yet, do you? The foolish son of the Minister of War didn't take a fancy to her and publicly rejected Cousin Lin. Cousin Lin must be too ashamed to show her face and has hidden away to cry in secret again. Indeed, who doesn't know that our Cousin Lin is not only a useless good-for-nothing but also a crybaby?" The sycophants burst into laughter, and I was so angry that my face turned red with suppressed fury. "You're the crybabies. Your whole family are crybabies. From childhood to adulthood, I've never been so angry that my face turned red, but ever since I was brought to Xingjing, even my eyes have turned red. It's just that when surrounded by people insulting me, I become tongue-tied and can never manage to refute a single word. Even Hongmei can't curse back for me, because I can't protect her." "Oh, Cousin Lin, eating a lot isn't your fault. Why are you crying?" "Exactly. It's only natural for a pig to eat a lot, isn't it? Then why is Cousin Lin crying?" "Oh, it must be because she can't get married and is crying from anxiety." The lackeys sang in harmony, making Song Yao cover her mouth and laugh. "Don't cry, little sister. It breaks my heart to see you like this. How could that fool ever be worthy of you? You two aren't even the same species. The only one who could ever match you is a pig. The pig's offspring is still a pig. You're the pig. You're all pigs. You all." I couldn't bring myself to curse back, but tears started falling instead. At this, their laughter grew even more unrestrained. May I ask where the lady of the estate purchased her mouthwash? Please inform Shen. Shen, will steer clear, lest I end up with a stinky mouth. As soon as the cold, clear voice spoke, the entire corner fell into dead silence. I lifted my reddened eyes and immediately spotted the most striking figure among the crowd of men. Dressed in blue robes, he stood as straight and cold as a pine tree. Though slender, he carried an air of refined elegance. His features were ordinary, yet his face radiated an unwavering integrity. Most importantly, his voice was truly captivating. The latest gossip was spreading through the streets and alleys of Shengjing once again. I became famous overnight after attending the Grand Tutor's wife's birthday banquet. However, this time it was my fake sister, the wife of the heir to the Anding Marquisate, Song Yarrow, who stole the headlines. I heard that shops selling mouthwash have posted notices stating they have never sold mouthwash to anyone from the Anding Marquisate. The wife of the heir has really brought shame upon herself this time. Her sharp tongue has caused the entire Anding Marquisate to suffer. The Minister of War, sword in hand, charged right up to the Marquis residence and gave them a piece of his mind for half an hour. Those lackeys also got a thorough scolding from the minister, one by one. I heard the Marquis of Anding flew into a terrible rage and punished the heir and his wife by making them kneel in the ancestral hall all night. While kneeling in the ancestral hall, the heir beat his wife until her face was black and blue. She probably won't be able to go out for half a month. My, Lan, Zhu, and Zhu vividly discussed the outside affairs, as if eager to get everything off their chests. I, however, recalled the man in blue who had stood up for me yesterday and found myself quite intrigued by him. Have you found out? Who is he? Hongmei was quick on the uptake. Without me specifying which he, she promptly reported, Miss, that is the esteemed student of the Grand Tutor, named Shenji. He topped the imperial examinations 5 years ago and is now the deputy censor-in-chief. Does he have a family? Hongmei was taken aback for a moment, then quickly understood. Please allow me to investigate further, miss. For the first time, I gave my maid a dissatisfied look. TSK, why can't you be a bit more clever? Before Hongmei could even find out the news, I was already kicked out. At the Grand Tutor's birthday banquet, I made the general's manner lose face. My fake sister, unwilling to accept the consequences of her own misdeeds, sent her trusted aide into the manor again. As one might expect, it was nothing more than the same old tricks, first applying pressure, then painting a rosy picture, forcing father to choose between two options. This time, without a moment's hesitation, the elders insisted I take a boat back to my adoptive parents' home in Sioux City overnight. For the past 3 years, we've been worried sick about you. But you're simply beyond help, like the proverbial ado who cannot be supported. Don't blame us for this. Once you return this time, consider all ties with the general's manor severed. Let's just pretend the mistaken adoption never happened. You must not speak of this to anyone. Your adoptive parents are merchants, and they will never be able to contend with the general's manor. Do not even think about reclaiming Yarrow. I have endured countless hardships to raise her so well. I will never allow a mere merchant family to disgrace her and ruin her bright future. Leave. I didn't press the issue further, only making one demand, a severance document. Mother was very displeased. Why do you need a severance document? Would that be publicly acceptable? Wouldn't the entire clan find out that you and Yarrow were switched at birth? I admit it, I said resolutely. Mother wanted to say more, but father made the decision. Give it to her. In the end, he wrote one copy by hand and transcribed another. All 3 of us pressed our fingerprints onto them. From then on, they were merely General Song and Madam Song. Miss, I found out. What's going on? Let's talk on the way. Hongmei had just stepped through the door when she was pulled back onto the carriage. Madam Song sent a capable matron to keep an eye on me all the way back to Sioux City. The nanny rode with us in the carriage to the dock, then followed us onto the ship. She didn't speak to us the whole way, and we paid her no mind either. Once we left the general's residence, I felt as if I had come back to life. On the ship, I indulged in eating meat and gnawing on fruits to my heart's content. These past 3 years have truly stifled me. The 3 maidservants explained to Hongmei the reason for returning to Sioux City, and Hongmei also shared news about Shenji. Lord Shen is 25 this year. His father passed away early, leaving only his mother to rely on him. He is not yet married, and has no concubines or chambermaids either, miss. This is all the information I managed to gather. I responded perfunctorily. Since I'm back in Sioux City, what is there to miss in the future? Finding a partner will be entirely up to my parents. I don't need to worry about it at all. However, I never expected that even before I returned to Sioux City, the news of me being publicly rejected by a fool had already spread everywhere. As soon as I got off the boat, I overheard that my parents hadn't stepped out of the house for 3 days. I was so angry that I didn't dare go home at this moment. First, I felt too ashamed to face my parents and elder brother. Second, if I returned home, it would only fuel the gossiper's arrogance. Yulon, go home and comfort my parents for me. Red plum, green bamboo, autumn chrysanthemum, follow me back to Xinjing. Once the matron from the general's manor boarded the return ship, I quickly made arrangements and hired another boat to head north. The general's manor losing face didn't bother me much, but if it brought shame upon my father, mother, and brothers, I felt like tearing the entire manor down, if not for their selfish motives. My parents and brothers would never have had to endure this. I will not return to Sioux City until I have married myself off and washed away the shame. I paid the boatman double the fare to get me to Xinjing as quickly as possible. With this motivation, the boatman managed to arrive 2 hours earlier than the old matron's boat. We immediately checked into the best room at our family's inn. Song Yarrow looked down upon the Lin family's merchant status and was unwilling to return to acknowledge them as relatives. She naturally had no idea that the Lin family were the hidden wealthy merchants of Great Yin. The Lin family's businesses spanned the entire nation, with trade extending to neighboring countries, truly wealthy enough to rival a kingdom. The year I left Sioux City, my eldest brother, who managed the capital's businesses, pressed his token into my hand. This was the first time I had used it. I feel absolutely ecstatic. Everyone, tell me, how can I win Shinji over? Hong Mei stepped forward first. Miss, the mistress of the household must be reserved and dignified. Lord Shen surely needs such a wife. You could start by accidentally running into him a few times to make yourself familiar, like slowly boiling a frog in warm water, and then gradually deepen your connection. Qingzhu pushed her aside and said, Miss, in my humble opinion, it's quite the opposite. You should create an opportunity to pounce on him and capture him in one fell swoop. Once the rice is cooked, marriage will follow naturally. Choju squeezed forward again and said, Miss, why not try both approaches? First, test Lord Shen's attitude when the opportunity arises. If subtle hints don't work, then shower him with ardent affection. You'll eventually move him. 3 maids, 3 mouths, every one of them spouting nonsense. I thought it over and over, tossing and turning, but couldn't come up with any brilliant ideas, so I decided to try everything they suggested. On the first day, I pretended to accidentally bump into him while walking. Just as I was about to collide with him, he suddenly turned in another direction, and I almost couldn't stop in time. On the second day, I walked past him and pretended to accidentally drop my handkerchief. When I turned back to look, not only did he not pick it up, but he even stepped on it, leaving a big shoe print on the handkerchief. On the third day, as dusk approached, I threw a sachet directly into his arms. He raised his hand to block it and shouted, Who dares to assassinate this official? Show yourself. There was no way I was going to show myself. Covering my face, I quickly ran away. It seems subtlety doesn't work. I decided to keep it simple and go for it directly. So, on the first day, I waited for Shinji on his usual route home after work. Then hastily stuffed a handkerchief into his arms. When I didn't get a response from him, on the second day, as our eyes met, I gave him a flirtatious glance. That night, while reviewing the day's events, I asked my 3 maidservants, what did it mean when he trembled a few times? Red plum, got to go. Green bamboo, peeing. Autumn chrysanthemum, the wind's blowing. I sighed repeatedly. None of them were reliable. So on the third day, I slipped him a love letter. Since I was not well read and my handwriting was poor, the letter was written by Qingzhu, dictated by me. I arranged to meet him at the watchtower in the center of the city, but I waited and waited upstairs, from the time he got off duty until the curfew, and never saw a trace of him. How did you write this? I strongly suspected that Qingzhu had made a mistake while writing on my behalf. Qingzhu affirmed, I wrote exactly as you instructed, word for word, rewrite it again. Qingzhu complied. And after finishing, handed it to me. I fell silent for a moment. Invite Lord Shen to meet at the watchtower tonight. What's the problem with that? Qiuzhu said. Miss, the problem is huge. Who is inviting Lord Shen? What time to meet? Whether to meet upstairs or downstairs? Shouldn't all these be clearly written? It seems that simplicity is not so simple after all. There's only one move left to use, Huju said in unison. Another day, I had the three of them sitting with me in the carriage. Then I pretended the horse was startled, and I was thrown out of the carriage, lunging straight toward Shenji. Half an hour later, in the medical clinic, an old doctor with a white beard was bandaging Shenji's broken left hand. Yes, it was broken because I fell on him, according to our plan. After I was thrown out of the carriage, I accidentally fell into Shenji's arms in front of everyone. This way, we would have an intimate encounter, and with everyone as witnesses. He would surely have to take responsibility for me, but we had overlooked my weight, and I ended up breaking the slender Shenji's arm. I'm so sorry. Besides compensating for the medical expenses, an apology is also necessary. I felt extremely guilty, my face as red as a boiled crayfish. Shenji slightly raised his left hand, which was bound with a splint, gritting his teeth in anger. Miss Lin, I did help you after all, so why are you repaying kindness with enmity? I stayed cooped up in the inn for 3 whole days, wilted like a flower. Miss, don't lose heart, at least Lord Shen remembered you. That's a step toward success. I shot Red Plum a glare. Your miss doesn't need your comfort. It would have been better without the comfort. Miss, once the arrow leaves the bow, it cannot be turned back. Think about why you cannot return home, Qiuzhu said. Miss, I still believe that forcing the issue is the key to victory, Qingzhu said. I sighed, but Qiuzhu had a point. I couldn't give up halfway. However, their ideas were both inappropriate. I tossed and turned, thinking it over and over again. If there's one thing about me that's unappealing, it's probably my figure. I've decided, starting today, I'm going to lose weight. For a whole month, I stuck to a vegetarian diet. I heard that exercise is also necessary for effective weight loss. So I started going up and down the stairs at the inn from time to time. The shopkeeper was so worried that I had gone mad, he immediately sent a carrier pigeon message to my elder brother. However, after half a month, although my face was still round, my slightly protruding belly had receded, and the chubby folds on my arms were no longer as noticeable. I was quite satisfied. To celebrate, I took my Zhu and Ju to the restaurant across the street for a big feast. It seemed we had picked an unlucky day to go out, as we ran right into Song Yarrow and her group at the restaurant entrance. This time, by her side, there was also her husband, the heir apparent, who openly flaunted their affection. Lin Yue, why are you still in Shengjing? Song Yarrow was very surprised to see me, exclaiming aloud before realizing it was inappropriate and covering her mouth. However, it still caught the attention of quite a few people. After all, I was once a well-known figure in the streets and alleys of Shengjing, and many people recognized me. Isn't Cousin Lin shamelessly trying to cling to the general's mansion? Madam Heir, you should remind Madam Song, it's better to cut ties with such poor and shabby relatives sooner rather than later. That's right, Heir. Last time at the Grand Tutor's residence, Madam Heir misspoke entirely because she was pressured by her. You should teach this big fatty a proper lesson on behalf of Madam Heir. Song Yarrow squeezed further into her husband the heir's embrace, following the flunkey's lead, her coquettish expression perfectly executed. Heir Ju Yang smirked crookedly, holding Song Yarrow's shoulder as he squinted at me. Cousin, you seem to have lost quite some weight, not so much like a fat toad anymore. What's the matter? Worried you can't get married? If not, I might as well sacrifice myself and take you as a chambermaid. Better than marrying a fool. Husband, Song Yarrow pushed him away with a playful scold, but Ju Yang immediately pulled her back into his embrace. Why must you be so angry, my lady? Once she's under your watch, whether she's a pig or a dog, won't it be up to you to decide? It seemed to strike a chord with her. Song Yarrow's anger instantly subsided, and she lifted her proud nose high in the air. The other lackeys chimed in as well, making our group of 4 seem particularly weak in comparison. Shut your mouth. Every time something like this happens, it's like your mouth is sewn shut. What use are you? Plum, bamboo, and chrysanthemums' mouths could be useful, but once they spoke, they would get hurt. This was a lesson I learned the year I first entered the general's mansion, so I tried my best to stop them. In the end, all 8 of our eyes were red with anxiety. I bit my lip, silently cursing myself for being so useless. And felt the tears welling up again. Has the mouthwash at the Marquis of Anding's residence not been changed yet? The familiar, cool voice rang out as Shinji appeared before everyone. The splint that had been bound to his left hand had been removed, likely because it had improved significantly. Shun could smell the stench from afar. The heir and his wife are indeed a perfectly matched pair. Shinji, it's you again. Being called foul-mouthed, Ju Yang was furious. Adding to the previous punishment of kneeling in the ancestral hall, which was also because of him, with new grudges piled on old hatred, Ju Yang's eyes seemed to be spitting fire. Do you just love meddling in other people's business that much? Do not think that just because you are a censor, I, the heir, am afraid of you. You're nothing but a commoner by birth. What makes you think you can take on the entire Marquis household, a mere deputy censor? My Marquis of Anding's household could crush you as easily as stepping on an ant. Song Yaro's gang grew even more arrogant and overbearing. The 3 of us stayed as quiet as mice, silently inching closer to Shinji, and then a little closer. I was a bit worried about him, but he just smiled. Even an ordinary face could look quite beautiful when it smiled. Unconsciously, the corners of my mouth lifted into a smile as well. Lord Huang. Not only does the young master harbor filthy thoughts and speak disrespectfully in public, but he also openly threatens to harm an imperial official. What do you think should be done? As Shinji's words fell, a group of people noisily entered the room, led by an elder dressed in yellow casual attire. The moment he appeared, Ju Yang's legs gave way and he knelt down. Seeing the young master kneel, everyone else followed suit, dropping to their knees in a large wave. I, along with the maids, were rather confused, but we figured kneeling couldn't be wrong, so we knelt as well. Your Majesty. The elder raised his hand, cutting off Ju Yang's words. It seems the Marquis of Anding has failed in teaching his son. He shall reflect at home for a month and discipline him properly. The heir apparent is devoid of virtue and holds the court and laws in contempt. From this moment, his title of heir apparent is revoked, and he is reduced to commoner status. In that instant, it dawned on me, this Lord Huang was none other than the current emperor. The whole group noisily departed once more. I withdrew my gaze from the blue-robed figures retreating back and calmly led my Zhu and Ju into the tavern for a hearty meal. I was in such a good mood that I ordered 2 more dishes. As I stepped out of the restaurant, I couldn't help but let out a burp, but when I spotted the figure in blue standing nearby, I hurriedly covered my mouth. Burp, cough. If I had known he would come back, I would have eaten less. Miss Lin, may I have a word with you in private? Yes, I nodded like pounding garlic, afraid that if I were a step too slow, he would change his mind. He and I stood on the watchtower, while my Zhu and Ju waited at the corner, peeking out one by one. He took out 2 items and laid them out in front of me. I looked at them and felt so awkward that my scalp tingled. Miss Lin, do you recognize this handkerchief and this letter? My face flushed red as I nodded. They are mine, miss. Why don't you speak your mind directly? I looked up at him. His expression showed no peculiarity, but his slightly furrowed brows revealed a hint of distress. My heart sank. A woman gives you her personal belongings and arranges to meet you alone. What else could it mean? If you think you can return the item, forget it. Since he already asked, I might as well throw caution to the wind. Lord Shen, you're so clever, how could you not know how I feel about you? As I spoke, I stole glances at him. Though his face remained expressionless, I still noticed the tips of his ears turning red. It was said to be an ordinary face, not striking at first glance, but the more you looked, the more captivating it became. After watching him for a while, I finally realized he was the type who grew on you. Despite holding a respectable official rank, having good character, and a decent appearance. For some reason, he was already 25 and still unmarried. However, I was even more satisfied with him. Lord Shen, you are unmarried, and I am unbetrothed. Why don't we give it a try together? With the window paper pierced, Shinji could no longer maintain his composure, and his face flushed red. Miss Lin, we are not suitable. Do you also dislike me for being fat? I was on the verge of tears. He quickly waved his hands in denial. Not at all, miss. You are not the least bit fat, there's no need to belittle yourself. Women in the capital are overly obsessed with having slender waists, but in truth, it often backfires. You don't need to follow their example. Then do you think I'm worthless, a good-for-nothing? The young lady comes from a wealthy family, so what does it matter if she doesn't excel in music, chess, calligraphy, painting, or needlework? Then why is that? I insisted on getting to the bottom of it. Shunji opened and closed his lips several times before saying, "You eat too much." Tears welled up in my eyes, threatening to fall at any moment. He sighed, "I can't afford to keep you. What kind of problem is that? I don't need him to support me anyway." I kept pressing him, demanding a clear answer. Shunji couldn't withstand my persistence and only said he would take me to a place where, once I saw it, I would give up. I followed him closely without leaving a step. While the trio trailed about 2 meters behind, Shunji led us through twists and turns in the alleyways, and we finally entered Sanli Lane. This area was far from the watchtower, and the houses were quite dilapidated. We followed Shunji into a low, old house. The creaking of the wooden door startled the old woman in the courtyard. She was washing clothes. "Mother, why are you out of bed?" Shunji rushed towards the old woman. "Come inside and rest quickly. Leave the clothes, I'll wash them. You shouldn't move around anymore. Jia is back." The old woman wiped her hands on the coarse cloth of her clothes, then reached out to grope forward. Her eyes were dull, as if she suffered from an eye disease that prevented her from seeing. For some reason, I felt a surge of sorrow and gently sniffled. Did Jia bring someone back? The old woman's hearing was sharp. Shunji supported her and said softly, "Yes, my friend. I don't want to be just an ordinary friend." I quickly stepped forward and grasped the aunt's hands, immediately feeling the many calluses on them. "Auntie, hello, my name is Lin Yua, a girl." The aunt was only shocked for a moment before breaking into a wide smile. "Jia, quick, make some tea and invite Miss Lin inside to sit. Mother, she'll be leaving soon. Please go inside and rest first." Shunji stepped forward to support his mother, but I deliberately didn't let him, familiarly helping her walk inside instead. "Lord Shun. A guest is a guest. I not only want to drink tea, but I also want to stay for a meal." All right, Yua, is it? Auntie likes straightforward people like you." Shunji's face instantly flushed red. He shot me an embarrassed and angry glance before turning around to boil water. Seeing him so flustered, I couldn't help but laugh happily. I glanced at the trio who were quietly minding their own business. Our eyes met, and they immediately sprang into action. Qingzhu went out to buy groceries. Hongmei took over Shunji's task of boiling water to make tea, and Qiuju went to wash the unfinished laundry left by the old woman. "There are others," the old woman said with certainty. I replied, "They are my 3 maidservants. They can't stand being idle, so I gave them some tasks. Don't worry about them. As long as I'm not chatting with someone who's scolding me, my words flow much more smoothly." So, from then on, the aunt and I had a very pleasant conversation. "Oh, how old is Yua?" 19. "Where do you live?" "My hometown is in Suzhou, but I've been living in Shenyang recently." I successfully exchanged information with the aunt, and thus learned Shunji's story. For 3 generations, Shunji's ancestors were farmers, tilling the land in Nanyang. The Shun family had few descendants. Shunji's grandfather only had his father as an heir, and his father, in turn, only had Shunji as a son. 12 years ago, a flood struck our hometown, and my father tragically lost his life. The fields were completely submerged, leaving no food. Staying would have meant waiting for death, so my mother took him and fled as refugees, begging along the way until they reached Shengjing. At first, they could only live in a dilapidated temple. During the day, the mother went out to work, washing and starching clothes for others. At night, she would light a fire, while her son studied and she mended clothes. After saving up for about half a year, they moved into this drafty old house in Sanli Lane. She continued to go out to work during the day and do needlework at night. For Shinji, she had only one requirement, to focus on his studies. Shinji lived up to her expectations, and by chance, he gained the favor of the Grand Tutor. Under the Grand Tutor's guidance, he began to show his talent. At the age of 20, he lived up to everyone's hopes. ranking first in the palace examination, becoming the top scholar, and earning an official position. Perhaps because the heavy burden on her shoulders had suddenly been lifted, Mother fell ill instead. The illness came on fiercely and ultimately left her with an eye condition. Her legs and feet also became unsteady, sometimes confining her to bed for several days in a row. There were also those who tried to snatch him as a son-in-law after he passed the imperial examinations. These families were not interested in him as a person, but rather in his status and potential in the imperial court. Shunji was well aware, but he had his own principles and bottom line in officialdom. Even if they spent heavily to support him, he would not accept it. Naturally, those influential families abandoned him. However, in the eyes of humble households, he became a lofty branch. But after the matchmaker's visit, things always ended without any result. Shunji was well aware of this as well. The family was impoverished, and his mother was often bedridden. Apart from necessary living expenses, his salary was entirely spent on buying medicine for his mother. These circumstances will not change for a very long time, even if the sage appreciates him and can secure some benefits for him. He is too proud and unwilling to ask the sage to make an exception for him unless absolutely necessary. Therefore, no one is willing to marry into such a family. He also did not want someone else's daughter to suffer with him and eventually become a resentful couple. That is why he has remained unmarried to this day. Miss Lin, isn't it time to give up? Under the mottled courtyard wall, Shunji asked me thus. I replied to him truthfully, if I had known it was because of this, I wouldn't have wasted so much time for nothing. I saw the cold smile at the corner of Shunji's lips. He must have been inwardly mocking how quickly I changed my attitude. So, Miss Lin, please go ahead, I won't see you out. Sigh, is he already trying to shoo me away? I haven't even eaten my meal yet. At least let me finish what I'm saying. I grabbed his sleeve and shook it. I'm not leaving, Lord Shun. I don't need you to support me. I can support myself. And I can support you and your mother too. I pulled out the banknotes I had just asked Choju for, stuffed them into his hand, and said cautiously, here's 10,000 taels as an advance dowry. On the wedding day, I'll add 60,000 taels of gold, 1 luxury residence, and 10 shops. Will you marry me? Shunji was taken aback, staring at the silver notes in his hand, his Adam's apple bobbing. But, I have nothing to offer you. I curled my lips into a smile. I have only one request. When others curse me, you must curse them back even harder. Alright, I'll marry you, miss. The master, the mistress, the eldest young master, the second young master, and the third young master are here. Just as Shunji and I finished speaking, Qingzhu returned. Not only did she bring back a basket of vegetables, but she also brought back a whole group of people. Miss, Yulon is back too. I brushed past Yulon who was running towards me and hurried to Mother, throwing myself into her arms. Mother, Yua missed you so much. Tears fell like pearls, making Mother's heart ache terribly. She wiped my tears with a handkerchief, her own voice choked with sobs, unable to speak. My father and brothers beside us grew anxious. Yua only has eyes for her mother, her father doesn't matter anymore. Little sister doesn't have her eldest brother in her eyes either, and no second brother either, and no third brother either. Everyone was jealous of Mother, and I was stretched thin, having to coax each one in turn. Yua misses father too, and misses eldest brother, second brother, and third brother. Woo woo, Yua misses everyone so much. I think about you all every day. At the general's residence, they never give me food to eat. Yua goes hungry every single day. They're always telling me to be careful around this noble, careful around that noble. When people insult me, I don't even dare talk back. They even want me to marry a fool. Woo woo. Everyone was heartbroken, coaxing her with endearments like sweetheart and darling. No wonder our precious girl has lost so much weight. That damned Song Shiren. Back then, he insisted on taking you back without a second thought. And now he's making you eat steamed buns with plain water, and he's your biological father. How dare they treat you so harshly? My sister has never suffered a day in our home, yet in his general's mansion, she's treated worse than a servant. This is simply intolerable. Oh, my precious darling, you've suffered so much. So, you're actually General Song's daughter, not some distant cousin at all. Since we're to become husband and wife, there's nothing to hide. With both families present, it's the perfect time to discuss the marriage arrangements. Shunji's family was truly impoverished, with only 3 decent chairs, one for Shunji's mother, and one each for my father and mother. Everyone else remained standing. And my brothers tacitly showed not a hint of dissatisfaction, their expressions perfectly normal. I briefly explained my background and mentioned the severance letter in passing. Perhaps women are more emotionally expressive. Both my mother and Shun's mother held my hands, shedding tears incessantly. I didn't feel there was anything to be sad about. If they didn't want me, I still had others who cared for me. Look, they've all crowded into Shunji's small, humble room. What kind of look was that in Shunji's eyes? Did it seem a bit sentimental? Forget it, I won't dwell on it. Putting aside the unpleasantness, when it came to the marriage, both families were beaming with joy and harmony. It seems my parents and brothers are quite satisfied with Shunji as well. I silently praised them, thinking they all have good taste. I just didn't expect things to go so smoothly that the 2 families exchanged betrothal tokens and birth details right then and there, with only the wedding date left to be decided. As for matchmakers, since I found my own husband, there's no need to let a middleman take a cut. I came in a hurry and didn't bring any gifts. We're business people, so we're quite straightforward. Just a small token of my regard, hardly enough to express my respect. Mother took out several silver notes and placed them in Shun's mother's hand. Father also took out several silver notes and placed them in Shun's mother's hand. A meeting gift. Dear-in-law, hardly enough to show my respect. The 3 elder brothers each took out several silver notes and handed them to Shunji, saying, a meeting gift, brother-in-law. Shunji respectfully accepted them, and judging by his expression, he was greatly startled. I am deeply grateful that my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and 3 elder brothers have not forsaken me. I, Shunji, swear to heaven that I will never betray Yua and will do everything in my power to protect her for the rest of her life. Otherwise, may I be struck by lightning. I watched the whole thing from the sidelines. Everyone changed their tune so quickly. Everyone was chatting animatedly when suddenly a smack sound was heard, and they saw Yulon so anxious that she had slapped her hand red. Eldest young master, there's still important business to attend to. Oh, right. Father and mother, along with my elder brothers, were thrown into chaos once again. I didn't know what my eldest brother was searching for on his person, but after a moment, he pulled out a scroll. I saw him holding it with both hands, his expression full of reverence. Sister, this is the imperial edict of bestowment from His Majesty. From today onward, you are the lady of Jiaoyu County. My father, who used to haggle over the price of a stick of candied hawthorn, actually donated 100,000 taels of gold to the national treasury, just to have the emperor grant me the title of county princess. He also nominally bestowed upon me a county princess residence, though in reality, it was a property already in my elder brother's possession. I was so moved that I cried my face into a mess. Even though everyone knows I'm not my parents' biological child, they still love me so dearly, even more than before. That evening, I eagerly wanted to bring both families to stay at the county princess manor. Shunji's mother initially declined, saying that since the 2 of us weren't officially married yet, it would be improper to live together and might harm my reputation. My elder brother immediately spoke up, saying that the house next door was also his, and he arranged for Shunji and his mother to stay there. The county princess manor and the neighboring house were separated only by a single wall, so I promptly ordered someone to break a doorway through the wall, connecting the 2 residences. In this way, the 2 families could come and go as they pleased, unseen by outsiders, and thus no one could gossip about it. The moonlight was as clear as water, flooding the courtyard. Under the crabapple tree, Shunji sighed repeatedly. I asked him what he was sighing about. He looked at me, his eyes filled with emotions I couldn't decipher. I'm just reflecting on how life is like a dream, elusive and unpredictable, with its ups and downs. I just never expected the changes to be so immense and swift. Well, I find it a bit obscure, but it's not hard to guess what he's talking about. How could I not feel the same? In just one day, I got engaged, reunited with my parents and brothers. And what's even more unbelievable is that I've become a county princess. Life, well, it's just, I haven't read much, but I don't necessarily have to reflect on it. Shunji asked me, Do you need me to do anything else for you? I'm quite good at drawing. Would you like me to draw a portrait of you? I shook my head, thinking that if he drew me, I'd probably end up looking plump and round. If he made me look thinner, it wouldn't resemble me anyway, so it's better not to have it done. You don't need to do anything for me, just speak up for me when others curse at me. I am a censor, and I am also good at this. If nothing else is required of me, it makes me seem quite useless. I saw that he was very frustrated, as if carrying a heavy psychological burden. I turned around, gazed at the bright full moon, thought carefully for a moment, and said, "It's not that nothing is required of you, still counting on you to have a child." I slept soundly through the night. Early the next morning, Shunji accompanied me into the palace to express gratitude. In the carriage, I immediately noticed the dark circles under his eyes. Didn't sleep well last night. Shunji's eyes darted around, just not looking at me. Yeah, suddenly changing beds, I'm a bit unaccustomed to it. I understood and said thoughtfully, "Then do you want to try sleeping in the wedding bed first? I'm afraid you might not sleep well again later." "Oh, why is my nose bleeding?" I quickly grabbed a handkerchief to wipe his nose, but he flusteredly took it from me. "Just sit there, I can handle it myself, probably just a bit of internal heat." I made a mental note to remind the kitchen later to prepare a pot of heat-clearing soup for him. Shunji was probably too tired. After his nosebleed stopped, he dozed off leaning against the carriage. It wasn't until the carriage stopped at the palace gate that he opened his eyes. He took me to the imperial study to pay respects to the emperor. I humbly kowtowed in gratitude for the imperial favor, then presented 10,000 taels of gold, and with a shameless face, begged the sage for another act of grace. "Oh, pray, do tell," the sage said with a benevolent expression, "Your Majesty, Lord Shunji is a man of noble character and unwavering integrity, a truly good official. Your servant's daughter has long admired Lord Shun and earnestly beseeches your Majesty to bestow a marriage between her and Lord Shun." This was what I had agreed upon with my parents and elder brothers. I had just been granted the title of county princess, and it wouldn't be long before people would try to curry favor or seek marriage alliances. If news were to spread now about my engagement to Shunji, it might harm his reputation. Those with ill intentions would surely criticize him, claiming that he married me merely for wealth. If we can obtain His Majesty's grace, that would be a different matter. "Indeed, you have good taste," the emperor praised and then asked Shunji, "My dear minister, what is your opinion?" Shunji bowed and said, "The county princess is both virtuous and beautiful, kind and respectful. I have also admired her for a long time." "Ha ha ha, excellent. I grant my approval. Prepare the decree." "Thank you, Your Majesty, for your great kindness." Looking at the imperial decree of marriage now in my hands, my heart is filled with joy. Married by imperial decree, let's see who dares to gossip. The carriage had just returned to the entrance of the county princess's residence when those who wanted to curry favor with me arrived. I never expected the first to come would be Lady Song and Song Yarrow. "You are County Princess Jiaoyu. How could you be the county princess?" Seeing their shocked expressions, they probably never expected that the person they were trying to curry favor with was me. I nodded at them, not wanting to exchange words, yet they grabbed my arms, refusing to let me leave, gripping so hard that red marks appeared on my fair, tender skin. "Lin Yua, don't even think about leaving until you explain everything clearly. What makes you a county princess? You toad, are you even worthy?" My face showed pain, but no matter how I struggled, I couldn't break free. Choju, who had accompanied me into the palace, tried to pry their hands off but couldn't move them, making her so anxious that she cried out for help. "How dare you two ladies commit violence in the middle of the street? You are utterly audacious." Shunji, who had just gotten off the car early at the street corner, hurried back. He pushed Mrs. Song and her daughter aside, and the two immediately fell to the ground. Grabbing my hand, he gently rubbed the reddened area where I had been grabbed, his gaze darkening. "Go back to the mansion and apply some medicine first. I'll handle things here. The pancake is fresh out of the oven. Be careful not to burn yourself when you eat it." It turned out he went to buy pancakes. I had just mentioned in passing how delicious the pancakes smelled, and he actually took it to heart. Choju helped me into the mansion, and as we reached the steps, I stopped. I need to keep an eye out. What if they end up beating Shunji? Madame Song and Song Yao remained sitting on the ground, beating their chests on the floor, clearly setting up for a scam. Help! Murder! Lord Shen is bullying people. More and more people gathered around, starting to point and whisper. Shenji stepped forward with an air of righteous dignity and shouted, "You shrew! How dare you slander this official? You too intended to harm the lady of Jiaoyu County, and I will report this truthfully to His Majesty. There is no need for you to throw a tantrum here, distort the facts, and confuse right with wrong. Justice resides in the hearts of the people, and everyone can bear witness. By openly insulting the lady of the county and questioning His Majesty's rewards, you are expressing dissatisfaction with His Majesty. You just wait for His Majesty's judgment." The moment that person was mentioned, the wind shifted direction instantly. The one being pointed at and criticized became the person throwing a tantrum on the ground, who bullied my daughter. Her parents and brothers rushed over upon hearing the news. The 5 of them stood by Shenji's side, their presence intimidating. "Father, mother, eldest brother, he bullied Yaroa, please help Yaroa." As soon as Song Yaro spoke, my heart tightened, and I also looked toward my father, mother, and brothers. Blood has always been thicker than water. Although they had never met Song Yaro before and hadn't shown any particular emotions, they had prepared a courtyard for her in the Sioux City Lin family. Now that they have met their blood relative, if they decide to acknowledge her, even if Song Yaro is flawed and doesn't deserve such wonderful parents and brothers, I can only respect their decision. The onlookers whispered among themselves, some already noticing that Song Yaro resembled mother, while I looked more like Lady Song. "I have only one daughter, and that is the county princess Jiaoyu. Who are you? You can't just go around claiming someone as your father. Perhaps she's lost her mind, randomly trying to claim kinship. Good son-in-law. Where is Yua?" Before Shenji could answer, I quickly walked over. "Father, mother, eldest brother, second brother, third brother, Yua, are you all right? You scared me to death." Everyone gathered around to check on me. There was only a slight red mark, which put their minds at ease. "Brother-in-law, report this to the authorities." The eldest brother's eyes flashed with menace, and everyone voiced their support. Shenji nodded in agreement and sent a servant to do so. Ahem. Such a trivial matter hardly warrants such a big fuss. At that, the 2 people on the ground quickly scrambled to their feet. "Father, mother, brothers, we are the real family. Father, mother, I am your true biological daughter. Lin Yua is not. Please send her back to the Song family. Let our family reunite." "Alright, you sought the title of county princess for your daughter. Please beg His Majesty to return the title to me." She rushed toward her parents, but they and her brothers had already stepped back, pulling me with them all the way to the steps at the entrance. "She really has lost her mind. Madame Song, are you just going to stand there? Hurry up and pull your daughter away, if the county princess gets hurt. She's just a commoner's wife now, she can't bear the responsibility." Madame Song looked at Song Yao, then at me, her eyes flickering. "Yua, after all, you were raised in the general's manor for 3 years. How dare you say you raised her for 3 years? Shenji and county princess should have been his. That dog is nothing but a toad lusting after swan meat." "Exactly. A man with no roots dares to covet our young lady." I spit on him. Fortunately, the young master was there. He had someone set him up several times with sacks, and the last time, they directly stripped his pants off and threw him into the pleasure tower. Speaking of the young master, he's really made a name for himself lately. In Shengjing, they call him Iron-Tongued Shen. What's wrong? I got interested. And even though the 4 of them openly laughed at me, I didn't mind. "Tell me quickly, miss, hasn't the young master been leaving early and returning late recently? He's gone out to curse in the streets." I was completely baffled. What on earth is going on? The whole of Shengjing is talking about it. The young master has been seizing every opportunity at court to expose the faults of Lord Dingen, the Vice Minister of Rights, and Li Ji, the compiler of the Hanlin Academy. After finishing duty, he would wander around the gates of a few minor officials who weren't qualified to attend the morning court. And it's said he confronts them every time he sees them. Those people were so intimidated that they didn't even dare to go out, and before stepping out, they would first poke their heads out to look around cautiously. I don't know why Shenji behaves this way, but as long as he's not causing trouble under the name of being my county princess's fiancé, I pay no attention to it. "Miss, the gatekeeper reports that a crowd of people are kneeling at the entrance, saying they want to apologize to you."
I hurried to the gate with the 4-person group, and indeed, several women were kneeling there. Ahum, aren't those Song Yaro's lackeys? When they saw me, they kept kowtowing incessantly, even breaking their skin. County Princess, we know we were wrong, we beg you. Please tell your fiancé to stop lingering around our homes. Princess, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I was speechless. Shinji was still causing trouble everywhere using my name, but inwardly, I was overjoyed. At that moment, Shinji hurriedly rode back on his horse. I was about to step forward to greet him when he cast a gentle glance my way. And then, silence, you troublemaking, gossip-mongering shrews. How dare you gather here to threaten the county mistress Zhao Yu, openly engaging in moral coercion. Extra chapter. My name is Shinji. Before the age of 25, I had long prepared myself for a life of poverty and lifelong solitude. Little did I expect that at 25, not only would I marry the new county princess as my wife, but I would also become the wealthiest remonstrance official, who asked my wife to be the daughter of the richest man in the realm. The emperor treats me even better now, every morning at court. The way he looks at me is like his gazing at the god of wealth's favorite pet. Other officials, even if I had just confronted them a moment before, have to put on a flattering smile the next second they see me. The entire Yu family treats me very well, stuffing me with dozens of silver notes every month. I always feel guilty. After all, I have nothing to give them. My wife told me that even if I weren't her husband, just for the sake of that time I spoke up for her at the Grand Tutor's residence, her family would still treat me this well. Speaking of this matter, I feel a bit ashamed. Back then, when I saw her being surrounded and humiliated by so many people without her even fighting back, I couldn't help but get angry. I've never seen someone with such a clumsy mouth, it's so stupid, so I couldn't help but snap back at her. I never expected that she would latch onto me because of it. One day, my wife brought up the story of how she pursued me back then. She said there was one time when she tossed me a sachet, and I blocked it as if it were a hidden weapon. I realized belatedly that long before she wrote me love letters or slipped me handkerchiefs, she had already been throwing an invisible embroidered ball my way. She asked me why I trembled a few times when she winked at me. A bit awkward. Just then, an ant crawled into my pants. My wife thought for a long moment before suddenly bursting into laughter, eventually laughing so hard she couldn't straighten up. She then asked me why I hadn't gone to meet the person who sent the love letter that day. I seized the opportunity to give her a half-hour safety education lesson. How outrageous to let someone call you out with just a random letter. She said she later made a foolish move, originally intending to frame me and make me take responsibility, but ended up breaking my hand instead. By then, I had vaguely guessed that it was her who slipped me the handkerchief and wrote the love letter, so I scolded her for repaying kindness with enmity and drove her away. Afterwards, I felt regretful and a bit lost, especially because, for the next month, she never appeared before me again. That day, while accompanying the emperor on an incognito tour, I ran into her again at the entrance of a tavern, surrounded and harassed by the same group of people. She was so anxious she was on the verge of tears. I was so irritated by what I heard that I couldn't stand her being so tongue-tied, so I spoke up for her once again. After accompanying the sage for a while, I felt I still needed to get to the bottom of things. So I excused myself and turned back halfway. She and her 3 maids had ordered a table full of dishes at the tavern, which certainly lived up to her reputation of becoming famous through eating. When she came out, I invited her to the watchtower, the same place where she had first asked to meet me. I pretended not to understand her intentions, but she readily admitted her feelings for me, so I took her back home, certain that once she saw it, she would give up. It had always been the same with those who came to see me before. When I asked her if she had given up, I actually felt a glimmer of anticipation I had never experienced before. Hearing her say that she had wasted her time for nothing made me angry again. After all, it was impossible. Unexpectedly, she meant something else entirely. She immediately pulled out 10,000 taels in silver notes and stuffed them into my hands, even saying she would give me 60,000 taels in gold and 10 shops as a dowry, but I couldn't offer her anything in return. She said all she wanted was for me to be her mouthpiece. Alright, I agreed to marry her. After all, I had already fallen for her. Well, it's mainly because she gave too much. What surprised me even more was that the Yu family members were all generous, handing out large silver notes without hesitation. My wife isn't really bad with words either, in front of her family. She chatters away non-stop, like a lit firecracker. It's just that when it comes to my wife's background, I couldn't help but feel sorrow and indignation after hearing it, but she didn't complain much. When speaking of these 3 years in the general's residence, she was very calm. It shows her kind-hearted nature even though they never raised her, acknowledged her only to abandon her again. She didn't hold much resentment, her parents-in-law treated her very well. I secretly vowed that I would treat her very, very well too, so good that she has me in her heart. Before the wedding, I cursed everyone who had ever insulted my wife, along with anyone associated with them, and even the guard dogs at their gates. From then on, everyone called me Shan the Iron Mouth, which I was very unhappy about, but my wife got hooked on the nickname and called me Iron Mouth every single day. Gradually, I got used to it too. After that, no one dared to speak disrespectfully to my wife again. Instead, some bold individuals took a fancy to me, declaring they wanted to snatch me away and have me help them curse at people. My wife wouldn't stand for it. Having been the county magistrate for so long, I've developed the commanding presence of a superior. For the first time, she publicly confronted those people, saying, "You're dreaming." It may be a bit crude, but it certainly carries on my true legacy. The mouth is meant not only for eating but also for speaking. As a censor, I deeply understand the importance of being articulate, so I lead by example, striving to make everyone in the family a master of comebacks. Dad, the youngest son of the Minister of War, is bullying our sister again. Come quick. Me, didn't Dad teach you the art of comebacks? Go help your sister fight back with words. Mom has already taken my Lan, Zhu, and Ju to confront them. Wife, No matter how capable my wife is, I still need to go and back her up, otherwise, my only use would be to have children. Wife, wait for me.